Hey guys, so I'm making this video as requested about Desmos and how to pay students. So first of all, let me back up. I normally post information, videos, how-tos on my Instagram page for teaching, but I also allow students who've graduated or whatever to add me on there. So I don't want to put these videos on there, right? These are our industry secrets and things like that. So this is going to be a new YouTube channel just for me sharing tips about what I've learned in using technology in the school year when we're actually physically at school, and then also what I learned this summer. So this summer I taught math. It's like a summer math boost course for students, I guess, who just wanted to get ahead. And so I taught for 3 weeks. We had class Tuesday through Thursday, and then asynchronous was Monday and Friday. So I'll tell you how I structured my class in another video. I'll talk about that. But I want to get to the down and dirty of Desmos and how I was able to pace students. So it's so difficult just figuring out how to teach virtually and keep track of students how we would in the classroom. I use Desmos every day. When you find something, you stick to it. So let me show you what I did. You go to teacher.desmos.com. So I'm going to click custom on the left side. This is actually one that Desmos created, but I edited for my purposes, and I'll show you how to do that in another video. So let's click on this one called New Independent Work, the Better Deal. Notice I have 2 class codes already going, but I'm going to create another one so that you guys can see me actually pace students in real time. On this one, and right now I have no students. So let me add some students. So I'm going to use my phone and my iPad or whatever devices I have to show you what it's like to have students. These 3 of my devices, my Chromebook, my phone, and my iPad, to create 3 fake students. So you'll see my name 3 times here. In order to pace students on the slides you want, you click the button pacing. So let me give you some instances on when I would pace and then show you how I would pace them. First of all, pacing allows me to see where everyone is, kind of gauge where everyone is, and make sure that everyone's on my page. My first use for pacing is for warm-ups. So normally for a warm-up, you may need only 1 or 2 slides open, just depending on whatever it is you're doing. So some days when they had already had a lesson, so maybe this is like day 2 or day 3 of the lesson, they've already been taught how to do whatever it is we were studying. And I wanted them to come into class with a warm-up and get started and try a problem out. I would just click in. I would probably only use 1 or 2 slides for the warm-up, not too much. So I'll click 1. Say, for instance, I want them on slide number 1. It doesn't have to be 1, but let's choose 1. When you click it, it highlights it in orange. And so then there's a button that says restrict to screen 1. And so I'm going to click restrict to screen 1. And that way everyone's on that screen. So if you look, I think you can follow my cursor. There's this little icon of like a little person, like head. And it says 3, and that kind of means there are 3 people on this slide. And if you hover over it, you will see the names of the students on the slide. Super, super helpful. So as they're popping up, as like class is starting, you have the warm up on the board, right? I'll show you how to do that in another video. You'll see people's names popping up. Then this number will change. So that's how you restrict it. If you feel like, maybe they're moving faster than you expected, or maybe you want 2 screens open, 2 slides open for students, then you can move and adjust how many slides they have available to them. So click the plus sign, which means that numbers 1 and 2, they can actually work on. But if you notice that little icon that shows the 3 students that are on slide 1, it didn't change because my students didn't change, right? I didn't change where they were. So I'm going to go on my iPad and I'm going to click next. I don't know if you all can see this. You probably can't see this, but I'm going to click next in the corner. And if you notice on my screen at the exact same time, Dotson, whoever Dotson is, moved to slide 2. So it shows you in real time when they move. And that's super, super helpful because you can see where everybody is, right? You can see who is still on number 1, maybe because they're struggling or because they're not doing it. And you kind of get a feel for who's doing what, right? As you get to know them. And then you can check on them if you're not sure and say, hey, Maya and Maya Dotson, like, I see you all still on number 1. What's going on? Or do you need some help or whatever? So I like Desmos for that reason. Say, for instance, the warm-up or the classwork for the day was to complete slides 1 through 8. Click pacing and start with 1 and then select 8 and it will give you the entire range. Sometimes I had Desmos activities that were like 25 slides long and I was not going to keep clicking plus over and over. So that was super helpful. When you are finished, make sure you click restrict to screen 1 through 8, okay? Remember, that means they can move along. So if you don't want them to move along, don't allow them to have that space. Say, for instance, you have too many slides open and you want to lessen the number of slides open, you click edit, and then I'm going to click 1 through, and now let me pause really quickly. Notice how right now they're still able to do 1 through 8. So your previous setting was slides 1 through 8 were available to me. Now, while you're in this mode of editing, nothing has happened. They're still able to move 1 through 8. So it's not until you click restrict to screens, whatever, that it changes for them. So I'm going to click 1 through, 5. You are on number 1, you're ready to move to number 2, and you want students to be able to focus on number 2. You want them to go back, you want to go over number 2 specifically. What do? Well, you can tell them to move to number 2, or you can just move them yourself. So to get their attention, maybe they're working and you're like, hey guys, I want us to focus on XYZ. Maybe you want to give a little quick lesson. You want to open up a new tab, use the whiteboard, whatever. You click this button next to pacing on the left side that says pause. So if you click pause, they cannot see the screen anymore. And this is what it looks like. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I'll try to include a picture if I can, if I have time. But it says activity paused. It's a grayed out screen and they're not able to see what's going on. Same on my iPad and on my phone. It says activity paused, right? So they know they can't do anything. They can't click anything on the screen. So if I'm pausing, I'm talking, saying, hey, come back to Zoom, look at me. I want you to see whatever it is I'm doing on my whiteboard behind me or whatever. I'm just talking. And so then if I want to unpause it, I can unpause it by clicking pause. And then say, for instance, I want them all on slide 2. So I'll click edit, right? We see that the screen is still highlighted. These slides are highlighted, so we know that they're still paced. So we're going to click slide 2. And when I click slide 2 and click restrict, you'll notice that the number jumps. My students did not click anything. They were forced onto slide number 2. However, if you notice, right, because you see how there are now 2 students here. But if you notice, there's 1 student still on slide 1. Now, this puzzled me for the 3 weeks I was doing Desmos because that would happen. And I did not figure it out until just today. It's paused like this because my phone, so whatever student is using their phone, is not on that page. So right now the screen is locked. They're not even looking on their phone. They're not even on Desmos, or they're not even on the tab that you want them to be on for Desmos. And so that's a way to tell who's actually paying attention. If you see a student, maybe you paced everyone, because if you pace everyone and they're on the Desmos tab, then it will automatically place them on the tab and they cannot move any further. They can click on the screen, but they cannot go forward or backwards, right? So if you see one stuck, that's because they're not actually probably on Desmos. So like my phone was off or, locked. So if I unlock it, now even if I unlock it, they're still not on here, I have to actually go to the Desmos page. When I go back to the Desmos page, it should move. It moved this student over to slide number 2. So that's a good way to tell who's paying attention and who's not paying attention, who walked away from their computer and who did not. Okay, so that's what pacing looks like and what the pause button looks like. Again, I use it for when we're doing like a warm-up or a class activity when we're working together and I need them to be on a certain amount of slides. Or maybe I created a Desmos that will span over an entire unit or 3 days. Right? And so I don't want them to have access to all of that. So they'll have access to a certain amount. And so I created this kind of class norm for how to use Desmos, and they knew that they only go on the slides that I asked them to go to. So remember I said, you can hover over this 3 and you can see who's on this slide, but you can also see it on this dashboard below. You see how all of these boxes are grayed out except for these 3. They're highlighted with a blue border because that means that student is on that page. So that's a quick way of seeing where Maya Dotson is or where Dotson is. You can look either up top or you can look at the bottom. So let me open up. So I'm going to open up the screen and I'm going to move Maya Dotson over on my computer. And so you see that she just keeps moving, right? She just moved over 1. So, and again, you see her name is taken from this this icon right here and moved over to slide 3. When you give instructions and you say, class, I want you to be on slide 2, right? Because I don't want to have to baby them. I need them to learn how to behave and how to use Desmos appropriately according to what our class procedures are. And so sometimes I'll have it open and not paste them for different reasons. And so what I would do is I would say, I would like for you all to stay on slide 2. Now, of course, you have some who are going to try to move forward when they're finished. And I say, so I can see them jumping. I can see them moving back and forth really fast just to kind of get a preview of what's going on. And I'll call them out and I'll say, before I say their name, I say, there are 2 of you who are moving forward and I asked you not to. Okay, just like a quick reminder, that's the beginning, and then I would say if they kept doing it or someone else would do it later on, because they would do it so much the first day or 2 just to test things out. Maybe they didn't hear. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. So I would say, I would call them out. If they're supposed to be on slide 2, I'll say, Maya Dotson, you're on slide 3. I would like for you to go on slide 2. And if you cannot stay on the slide that I asked you to stay on, then I'm going to have to remove you from Desmos. And I'll give you something else that you can work on. And so this is after I've explained to them the reason of why we stay on certain slides. So I'm not like, mean or anything. But they need to understand what the rules are. And by day 4 or 5, they were fine. No one was moving ahead when I asked them not to. So the last thing is I wanted to create a video on differentiating and how to scaffold your lessons, how to deal with students who are on different levels using pacing. And so I'm going to do an entirely different video on differentiation so that you all can see how that worked for me. But that's just a quickish video of how to use pacing and the pause button. Let me know if you have any questions, and then in the comment section, if you want to ask me questions on how to do other things, you can. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be, but you can ask me about my experience, and I'll probably post another video about my experience.